Hello and welcome everyone. Today we are going to be talking about Google and some of the changes that they have made. I am particularly pumped about this. When Google launched Chrome and they gave it away for free, the reason that they did that is because it's a big information collector, and in 2026, information is currency. And especially for Google, information is currency. And so when they launched Google Chrome, it has all the cookies in it that we're all used to agreeing to when we first download Chrome. But when Chrome first came out, it was only gleaning this information and it would follow you out as you would go through your customer experience. And it has continued to do so. But one of the great and wonderful things about information is they can see if people are getting what they're looking for because Google wants to stay relevant. And so Google wants people to find what they're looking for. So in times of past, Google has given preference to people that have gone to websites and stayed on a website for a long time. And they thought, oh, hey, people are interested in this. But like my recipe journey, I was interested in finding a recipe, but couldn't find it. So I would spend a lot of time on these websites going through grandma stories and stuff, never actually finding the recipe. So I would hit the back button. The back button is now the kiss of death for your Google customer journey for any local service that is amplified. And so Google is tracking where people are going, how long they're being there, yes. And the more important thing is that people are finding what they're looking for. So the more people go to your website and then hit the back button, that is considered a bounce rate. And so your bounce rate, we have to keep that low. And we want people to find what they're looking for on your website is basically if you strip everything away, that is Google's true intent here. And so I wanted to cover that. And so one thing about Google, they are constantly changing, and we've all seen this. And it's actually a good thing in a lot of ways that they continue to change because now, if these recipe holders follow suit with what Google is looking for, that will save me a lot of time looking for these recipes because I won't go to their site and not find what I'm looking for. So this is all about solving a problem. When someone is Googling your local service, this webinar is predominantly for local service providers. And when someone is looking for your service, you need to solve their problem. And the best place to do that, from what Google is saying in this particular press release that has come out, is within your first paragraph or even your first sentence. That is an interpretation by professionals of this particular press release, but in your first paragraph and even your first sentence, and it needs to be relevant and answers the problem. And I just went ahead and gave you an example right here so that just doesn't sound like this nebulous presentation. But this is actually a client of ours, Taylor Auto Repair, serving Dallas. Call us for same-day service. This is a very appropriate first sentence for your first paragraph. And we talked last week, and then we also talked during the Fat Guinea Pigs, we talked about fulfilling Google's promises. And when Google says that you have something in your services menu on your Google business page or a product, and you click on it, it needs to take you to a page that is relevant and backs up what Google is saying. The pages that are not relevant, and it just gets into sales copy and stuff like that, then Google is downgrading those websites as far as relevancy, and the bounce rate increases. That bounce rate, like I say, that the back button, that increases when you are not keeping the promise that you made on Google Business Page. So on your Google Business Page, say, for instance, Taylor has on their Google Business Page that they have brake services as one of their services. Someone clicks on that, there's a link associated to it. And then they click on that link and it takes them to their brake service page. And all it talks about is about their company and they were formed in 1989 and this and that. It doesn't solve their problem. This is what Google is talking about. It needs to solve their problem quickly. And so even on those other pages, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, also need to support this same philosophy. And so here's your auto repair. This is what they were searching for. Here's where they are. They're in Dallas. And what makes them different? They can get on it same day. A lot of you that know Euro Auto Repair, a lot of shops can't get to you until next week or something to that effect. Same day service. This tells them why they're different right there. And then the second line actually talks about them being a lower cost dealer alternative and lists some of their brands and such like that. But we have our big three. This is the service they offer. This is where they are. And this is what makes them different. All in that first sentence, this 100% satisfies what Google is looking for. And this is, if we are not your agency of record, if we're not your marketing agency, you can go through and make these changes. If we are your marketing agency, just ping me, say, hey, Sam, we wanted to be first in this. We'll get you taken care of and we'll get it done. And so this is something that we're actively doing. If we rebuild your website, we're going to rebuild it with this already in it from now on. This is new. So if we just built your website last week, nope, it doesn't have this exact same scenario, but we're constantly changing with Google. We're constantly improving. And so I just wanted to lay that out that if you're interested in getting this done, please, ping your rep and let us know. Your title tag, this is for your agency of record that has to deal with this, but your title tag has to match. And enough said for that. I don't want to get into that. Your H1 primary heading. Once again, I'm saying this so that you can do this. You can get this done. Your H1 or your primary heading also needs to match. And I hope that you're seeing a pattern here that all this needs to line up. You are fulfilling the promise that Google is making on your Google business page. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that we're pushing most of your traffic to your Google business page, which then can either make a decision right there on your Google business page or going to your homepage or whatever landing page we're sending people to, but it all has to line up is what it boils down to. And your H1 primary heading needs to align with that. So an algorithm, this is a word that is thrown around, in my opinion, by my competitors to intimidate. It is not intimidating. An algorithm is just math. And so none of our clients, I don't have any clients that are wedding dress shops. And so I wanted to choose something that had nothing to do with your business, so you don't have any preconceived notions on this, because we don't need to bring our baggage into this conversation. But an algorithm is just math. So it is simply math plus history. And so all that historical data comes together and gives you your algorithm. That's all that it is. All I did is search for wedding dress. And then when you do that, you're going to have some sponsored products that show up. And I just want to show you, this is what pops up. Okay, now if I type in wedding dress history, okay, now all of a sudden we've got Vogue magazine, and see, it's not trying to sell me something right off. This algorithm knows that I'm not looking for a wedding dress per se because of the word history, but it knows that I'm looking for historical and wedding dresses. So it's taking all that together and it's giving me videos and stuff like this, all well before it's trying to sell me something. And so if I was to jump over into AI mode, it would talk about the history of wedding dresses and stuff like that. History actually goes to the beginning of this, because the algorithm knows that historically, when people type in wedding dress history, they're looking more for the history of the wedding dress than for a wedding dress themselves, because that is relevant to your business. And we just have to make sure that we're giving people exactly what they're looking for. That algorithm, it is looking for a contiguous track. And when I say that, everything aligns. So it wants your website to back up the promise that it is making. So it already knows what people's intent is, and it wants to make sure that your website is in alignment with that intent. Okay, so we're just matching the format that Google expects. I just typed it out there. It's so simple. That's what we're looking for. And we're focusing on a goal of completion. You don't want people to come to your website and then hit that back button. You want them to have found what they're looking for, schedule an appointment, schedule a service, buy your product. You want that to happen either on your Google business page or on your website. You don't want them going back out. And so the things that you need to offer them in that first paragraph is your service plus your city. And like I say, that needs to be in your first sentence. You need to talk about what you do and solve their problem and immediately offer social proof. That has to happen just right there in the first paragraph. You always have your contact very visible, that is on the same screen. And then, so just right here again, Taylor Auto Repair. So it has auto repair, serving Dallas, call for same day service. It talks about what differentiates them. And all this happens above the fold. Now, the fold, for anybody that doesn't know what the fold is, say you pull this up on your mobile, whatever you can see on your screen when you pull this up on your mobile is above the fold. When you start scrolling, that is below the fold. That's just marketing terminology. And so all this that I just mentioned, all this has to be above the fold. So I know we're fitting a lot in there and we're changing a lot. A lot of you have a very large picture, on the very top of your header. That is going to be changing to where we can fit all this other information above the fold so that we're keeping Google's promise. And it might not be quite as pretty, and we're going to have to work on that design-wise. Yes, we have to react to what Google wants, but it is going to be better for your SEO and for your Google business page, for your rankings. And if you tuned into the webinar last week, you saw that actually 94% of people scroll past the Google paid ads before they get to the map pack. And we had talked about that. But that is one of the reasons this is so important, is because you're going to have people that are skipping past those Google ads. You want to capture those. It's basically free for you to capture those. And so we're adding social proof. This is supporting evidence. So you make your claim and then you have to back it up. So you'll have your people saying, hey, you're great on social. Your reviews is a big one. If you have 500 reviews, that's great. Let's get that on there. We actually have a plugin that we add on your website that adds fresh 4- and 5-star reviews. It does not add 1-star reviews to your website. That's just a simple plugin. Yes, you have to buy those in the event that you're not one of our clients and you're listening. You do have to buy that plugin, but it is well worth it. It keeps them new and fresh. And then you have your awards listed. A lot of awards came out. The Community Best came out last week with their big marketing push for 2026. And if you don't have any awards, yes, you should buy that. I know that it is just, and most business owners know that it's just fluff. If you have, for instance, a Napa Gold Award, something like that, it needs to be right there. And then your testimonials needs to be right there. If you have testimonials, and these can take the places of testimonials as well if you don't have any, but all that needs to be above the fold. So right when they come there, they should be able to make a good buying decision before scrolling down. That is the big thing. We're working on this and overcoming everything that we'll have to for this. This is what is working right now. And so please be patient with us if we're your agency, and we will get through this. We will work through this. And we are not the gods that know all things, but we will get all of this figured out and how to fit all that above the fold. And so Google has set the parameters, and our expert groups that we are parts of have seen that this is what we have to do, and we've seen the results from it. And so I want everyone to understand that we are going to work on this, but this is going to be constantly changing. Understand that Google, if you pretend that you're a penguin and you swim up onto an iceberg, and as that iceberg is melting, you have to swim off that one and get onto another iceberg. That is what it's like dealing with Google. I just want everyone to know that it's not about perfection. It's about alignment with goal completion. We're aligning with Google and helping them accomplish their goal. And so I'm actually going to close on that slide. That's my favorite slide. This is what it's about. Your website doesn't have to be perfect. Your sales pitch doesn't have to be perfect. It does have to be aligned with what Google is saying. So long as it's aligned, you're going to satisfy that algorithm. And so long as you're satisfying that algorithm, then you're going to show up where you need to. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up to questions or comments if anybody has them.